Baltimore Orioles have made another major move involving one reliever is now on the move. What is Mike Elias doing, and when will the Baltimore Orioles trade their veteran stars? Welcome back to an episode of Orioles Digest. I'm your host, Kam Brice, and yes, we have another Orioles trade. I know today John already broke the news, and if you didn't see earlier, Ramon Urias has been traded to the Houston Astros. The Baltimore Orioles did not get a big return, and we feel like we got robbed. But in this case scenario, Mike Elias bounced back, and Andrew Kittredge is on the move. So we're going to get into Andrew Kittredge and why the Chicago Cubs decided to trade with the Baltimore Orioles to receive Andrew Kittredge, and who the Baltimore Orioles receive for him. Interesting prospect. So let's get into our first topic of the day. Yes, sir. July 31st. It says it. Andrew Kittredge was traded from the Baltimore Orioles early today to the Chicago Cubs for Wafele de la Cruz. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but de la Cruz was just signed by the Cubs earlier this year, securing a $2.3 million signing international bonus. He was the highest of their 2025 international class. Baseball America listed him as the number 120 prospect in the Cubs organization. He's listed at 6'3". He's a good batter, but he might end up playing third base. That's a utility guy, a third baseman, high young prospects from international as the Baltimore Orioles could use. It's a guy that's definitely a guy they can do. Now, on the other hand, Andrew Kittredge was obviously in his ninth year. He was a veteran. You remember last year, he was not last year, but earlier this year, he was kind of shaky with the Baltimore Orioles. Only hit a 3.56 ERA. Only 7 holds for the Orioles this season in 31 appearances. But last season, when he was with the Cardinals, he was dominant. That was the guy that we traded for. Like, oh, this can be our guy, our setup for Yunier Cano and Félix Bautista, and the Baltimore's have one of the best bullpens in baseball. I said that, but it just didn't pan right. And I think the right direction is get him to a contending team, and he can probably be his old self that he was last year. Now, the good thing about this and the return for the Baltimore Orioles is when you think about it, the Cubs, they obviously add a veteran piece to stabilize their bullpen, and obviously they can have Kittredge on a multi-million-dollar contract. But for the Orioles, I want you guys to listen to this. But this is the analysis. I'm going to tell you why this is, I think, one of the best moves Mike Elias has made this deadline. For the Orioles, they get rid of a valuable reliever, yeah, but he was going to reach free agency because he had a club and player option. Now, you get a ups, listen, high upside player who will be MLB ready level pretty soon. This is a guy that can be in the majors in about 2 to 3 years. This is a guy that can fast rank through the majors and the minors. So I feel like, and he also has that name De La Cruz. So I think it's a good thing. But remember, the Baltimore Orioles signed Andrew Kittredge for 12 million earlier this off season, so they could go out and be a playoff push. But now that they don't have the aspirations, and it's clear that Mike Elias is selling, we still have Ryan O'Hearn, Cedric Mullins, Ryan Mountcastle, Zach Eflin, Charlie Morton. All those guys are still available, and I'm pretty sure teams are calling them. So we're going to keep updating you guys. I'm pretty sure another move is going to happen as soon as I upload this. But in the Dominican Summer League, De La Cruz slash 262, 470, 442, and 417 with more walks than strikeouts. Listen to that. More walks than strikeouts. We need guys with better plate discipline. If we can get this type of talent through the minors again and restack and have one of the top three, top two best farm systems in baseball. Because if I'm looking right now, all these moves that the Baltimores have done, they have one of the top four farm systems in baseball. Remember, a couple years ago, the Baltimore had the best farm system in baseball for 3 consecutive years. And then, guess what happened? It just fell. Got rid of the major prospects. Guy like Kyle Stowers goes off. Now he's a top four player in baseball right now. And it's outrageous. Don't even want to talk about Kyle Stowers because I know how angry that gets you guys. It gets me angry that the Baltimore is traded. But I feel like this is a good move. On the other hand, Does this do enough? No. You're going to have to get more. But who else is going to acquire more? Do I think the Mets are going to target Cedric Mullins? I don't know. But we're going to get into that. But I want to take a deeper dive in this whole Andrew Kittridge. And I want to see the problem and why I think this is really a good move. And I'm just going to talk about from Mike Elias' point of view, and I'm going to say this is actually kind of saving his job right now. So you get a 17-year-old for almost a 40-year-old pitcher that you weren't going to use next year, and it was just good time to get rid of him. But you think of it this way, this is going to open the door for the reliever market. It shifted the market, so now the reliever market is going to die down. So now what happens is center fielder, the outfield, the first baseman market, that's going to heat back up. And you have guys like Ryan O'Hearn and Cedric Mullins. Those two I'm going to incorporate highly. I would talk about Ryan Mountcastle, but I don't feel like Mountcastle has a direction right now. So I'm sticking with O'Hearn and Mullins. And on that hand, I really feel like Cedric Mullins is going to be a type of guy that the Mets can acquire. I've seen talks. I talked to my guy, Dan Bartos. He works in the New York Post. He has all the updates. He gets all the inside source scoop from the Mets. And he said the Mets have been calling the Baltimore. They have been in talks about a deal surrounding Cedric Mullins. So the Mets are really looking for a center fielder. They're looking for a guy because one of their center fielders out for 6 to 8 weeks, so they need a replacement. And Lindor's not healthy, so they need another guy that can be aggressive on the base paths because that's what they're missing. Now, for Ryan O'Hearn's sake, I'm unsure where he's going to go. There's multiple teams he can go. He can go in the division to the Red Sox. He can go out the division. We don't know. Could the Baltimore's end up keeping one of those two? I would not be surprised if Cedric Mullins they just hang on to him and then let him go in free agency for his last hurrah. But I really believe that you have to trade these guys. If they're going to go, might as well trade them. I know you would love to finish this year out, but it's nothing to finish this year out. There's no Detroit Tigers run. The season is lost. This cannot be replaced. And for Mike Elias to really, really save his job, because his job is on the line, he better get top five to top 10. He needs a top five prospect. If Mike Elias does not get a top five prospect by this MLB trade deadline tonight, this is a failure. And the Baltimore should look in a different direction because his job is on the line right now. We're not rebuilding. We're not rebuilding. So flip them players, get some more prospects, flip them prospects, add good bullpen arms, get a high end starting younger pitcher. If you can get a young pitcher and a top five prospect this trade deadline, Mike Elias, your job is safe. Sign him to extension. But I have to be realistic, and honestly, I don't think the Baltimore are going to get much for Cedric Mullins and Ryan O'Hearn as much. We didn't get much for Ramon Urias, so I'm unsure the direction Orioles are going right now. But we'll see later because more moves will happen. But thank you for joining me on Orioles Digest. Once again, I'm your host, Kam Brice. Make sure you hit that like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, give you daily updates about the Baltimore every single day. Turn on post notifications. Just wait. I will be back later in a couple hours to break you with more trade MLB news. Thank you for having us.